just sign it.
So they, everybody got, oh,
They just came that way.
okay, all right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Rachel's running the Zoom. I don't see that we have any guests. The first order of business that we have is when we do have a quorum, it does appear. So we're going to start an approval of the agenda that was sent out. Is there any corrections or questions on the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Don't know that there is not going to be an executive session today. We'll not have that. No further discussion. All in favor, the agenda is presented, say aye.
Aye.
Also vote aye, that passes.
Hey, Brad.
Yes.
Rachel, that was Kelly on the motion and Headley on the second.
Thank you. The audio is not great.
Next up, we have the minutes from our meeting of April 19th, which was our last meeting, skipping May. Those were sent out the other day. Are there any questions or corrections on the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
So move. Kelly. Second. Bill Lyons.
Jim Kelly's made a motion, Bill Lamont has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All also vote aye, and that motion carries. We're up to public comment. See nobody online. Everybody here is staff or board members.
There's coffee over there. That's it.
Public comment. Very over there. So, all right. Next up, we have payables. And Rachel, do you have any comments reference that?
I don't have any comments, but if you guys have questions, I am here to answer them.
Okay. And we'll incorporate financial report as well into that. Is there any questions on any of the payables or the financial report? You do not need to take action on that. Did you have any comments on the financial report, Rachel?
I don't. Our revenues are coming in. We should be expecting about 58% remaining in revenues, and we're at 52%. So we're doing really well there. Our interest earnings are great. And then I think we're at about 66%, I believe is what I was reading for expenditures. No, 75%. So we're doing really good in our expenditures as well. Although I think we'll be expending quite a bit of those towards the end of the year with the transition into the new building.
Any questions for Rachel? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 7.
Hey, Brad, we do need a motion on the payables.
Motion to approve.
Oh, we do on the payables? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
This is Gar, I move to approve the payables. And Ms. Allen, I second it.
Need discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All also vote aye. So that's the motion carries. Sorry about that.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Gar.
Dar. Thank you.
And then Alan Headley was second.
Yeah.
Ruth, did you have some? Okay. Oh. Number 7.
All right. As part of restructuring and having talked with legal a couple of times about our supervisors and how we use them, legal was quite frankly a little bit shocked that we had supervisors that were salary exempt, given that they work the floor. They're fit more closely with hourly non-exempt employee status. And they've been, the existing supervisor positions have been functioning more as administrative / management type positions. So it makes sense for the structure to more closely match our neighboring agencies throughout the state to have an operations manager position, and that this will be the start of our restructuring, so to speak. So I'm asking for the operations manager position with the new salary range, and that salary range is on the back of the packet. If you have any questions about that. And then the next step in that in the coming months, right now we're working with the guild on it, will be to create 2 different or new supervisor positions that will actually be hourly non-exempt working the schedule supervisor. So that'll be the next step after we get this part done. So if there are any questions, I'll entertain your questions.
Operations manager be like second command then? How would the organization start with?
Essentially, yes, yes. So administrative staff would still report to the director, operational staff being dispatchers, supervisors, leads, et cetera, will report to the operations manager.
Ron, that'd be helpful. If you don't mind, just to review of the structure now.
Yeah, so currently we have the executive director, we have administrative staff. Bree is the executive assistant and HR administrator. And as you all know, Bree also does, she's our training coordinator, our public education coordinator, things like that. Some of those responsibilities will be shifted around between now and the end of the year, so that she can focus on the human resource side of things. She also does all the public records right now. And then we have Rachel, who's our budget finance manager, Jerry, who is our dispatch supervisor, Deanna is our vendor IT manager, manages all our vendors and contracts, and Don is his title is Next Gen 911, but he's essentially IT manager. And of course, we have Van and our facilities manager. We got 2 lead dispatchers who are working opposite shifts on the schedule currently. And when Jerry's not here, when there's not a lead dispatcher on duty, then we have the dispatcher in charge position. But beyond that, it's dispatchers. That kind of that's what you're looking for.
Well, let me go.
So what we'll be going to is, it's very similar. The only difference is we'll have an operations manager who will oversee the supervisors, and the supervisors will have a more direct interactive role. Currently, the supervisor positions work the floor once in a while as needed. And they do the evaluations of the dispatchers and things like that. But they're currently salary exempt employees, which by definition, they should not work the floor. So according to legal, if they are working the schedule, working the floor at all, other than just once in a great while when there's an urgent need, but they can't be part of the schedule or assigned to work shifts. They can step in as needed, but they can't be assigned to shifts. Being a salary exempt employee, that reclassifies them as hourly non-exempt. And throughout the state, excuse me, at 911 centers, supervisors are more typically hourly non-exempt employees. So right now, our supervisors don't go overtime. Under the new structure, the supervisors will be eligible for overtime. We're working on that right now with the guild. Typically, supervisors, depending on the size of the agency, they should be in a guild. Smaller agencies like ours, where there will be 2 supervisors, the common practice is to have them in the dispatcher guild, even though there's a conflict there. So the wording has to be the MOU that we would have to do has to be very carefully done. Some of the larger agencies, Northcom, Valleycom, South Sound, Cresta, they all have a separate supervisors guild, but they have anywhere from 10 to 20 supervisors. So us having 2, not really feasible to have a guild of 2 unless they affiliate with a larger national union of some sort.
So with the, you said that currently the supervisors are doing the dispatchers, are those
They are.
still going to be done by the supervisor, or those going to be?
They'll be done by the supervisors and then approved by the operations manager.
In all these changes, what's the impact?
It'll actually be pretty, and Rachel, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, it'll actually be pretty neutral because we're losing 1 administrative position in January. Somebody keeps threatening to retire. We'll see how she does. So there is some neutrality in that as far as the overall. As you can see on this salary scale, right now our top step supervisor, the bottom step operations manager is pretty close to 10,000 above what the top step supervisor is. Our current supervisor structure with them
What are you looking at?
on the very back of the packets. So step 1, the OM1, the annual salary is $98,372. And so that is almost $10,000 above the top. The difference being right now, if we have a supervisor at Top Step today, we have a few dispatchers who get longevity pay that our supervisors don't get currently. They can get lead pay if they're a lead, a dispatcher. They can get training pay if they're training. There are a handful of things that they can get that actually put them not well above, but above what the supervisor pay rate is. So that's, as I understand it, primary reason, not primary, one of the many reasons that supervisors are hourly, non-exempt, and in guilds, so that they have that opportunity for the overtime and things like that. So as far as overtime for supervisors, there will be some. They will be assigned to work the schedule just as the dispatchers are now. And we won't, the idea is to not take them off the floor for meetings and administrative functions, things that they have to do. If necessary, and if the staffing allows it. But typically we will have those meetings or tasks outside of their schedule. So there will be some overtime, but it should be minimal. We will do our best to keep it minimal. But as budget overall, it should be pretty neutral to where we're at now, the positions that we're changing.
Reorganization, not additional.
Correct.
Right, that's-
Yes.
Yeah, we're not approving to add another position on top of what we already have.
Right. Well, this.
We're not gonna spend this much, we're not gonna add another chip
Correct.
on top. is my
Correct.
question.
Let's technically have 4.
Right, we do have 4 lead positions. We have 2 filled right now, and I don't intend to fill the other 2. that are unfilled currently. I think with 2 supervisors, we only need 2 leads.
Previously, we had 2 supervisors.
Currently, we have 1 supervisor. We have 2 positions, but 1 working right now. That should also reduce our additional pay. We have the supervisors. and leads there.
You anticipate the operations manager, maybe directly, not dispatch.
Keep the difference.
Yeah, so I guess, if you approve a position today, you do have additional costs until someone retires, if they retire. So you do have that overlap. Because you're taking a wash between a one position one away eventually, but there's no guarantees at all of that taking place. So I think the board has to be aware that there is additional funding being requested here.
Yes, in that regard, yes. What we haven't said yet is how we're going to fill this position. And the current intention, my intention is to promote Jerry to this position. So he won't be receiving that supervisor pay that he's been receiving. He'll be receiving the office manager pay, which
So then
There's
you
still one open supervisor position.
and there's still, there's an open supervisor position right now that's been unfilled since the first of the year. So we will have we will eventually fill the 2 supervisor positions. So you're correct, it is a net increase pending retirement in January.
And so then you won't have, each squad or team won't have their own lead dispatcher. You're only gonna still keep 2 on days and not on nights. And then is the other supervisor gonna work night shift?
The other supervisor will work we haven't set the hours yet for supervisors. We currently have a cover shift from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. The dispatcher is filling in the next year, and those are already bid through this year. In 2024, we may put the supervisors in those positions and one on the, you call them team 1 or A and B? 1 and 2. Team 1 and 2 is the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday group, and then the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday group. So the lead on each. And that group, those 2 teams include the day shift and the night shift. We have a supervisor over supervising the day and nights on those 3 days, and then the other on the days and nights on the other 3 days. They work every other Saturday. Yes,
So, so I can understand this right. If, let's say you intended to have Jerry go, will he start out at OM1?
well,
Okay, so there's not gonna be any bargaining into that. And then are these annual increases?
these are annual increases, and that's a great point. Most of our positions now currently have either 5 or 6 steps. And the way we did add for this year a training step for dispatchers. Historically, there have just been the 6 steps. So they come in at step 1 prior to this year. Come in at step 1, when they sign off, they go to step 2, or when they can complete promotion or probation, they go to step 2, and then on their anniversary, step 3. So the majority of our dispatchers are already maxed out at that step 6. And likewise, the administrative management positions are a little bit different, but they do all have either 5 or 6 steps. And the trend statewide is anywhere from 12 to 15, some have 20 steps. For example, a supervisor right now, Gary's position, Gary's been maxed out on the pay scale for years. Gary's been a supervisor for since Gary's been a supervisor for 10 years. He's maxed out and he has nowhere to go other than cost of living adjustment. So the more steps, and our current steps for dispatch and for admin are 5% steps. So that's why you see the difference here, why I listed out to the right. There's a lower percentage in the steps, but there are more steps. But yes, and the intention right now is the ops manager will start at step 1.
Keep your seat cold as an additional position.
So it's a new supervisor positions, that still needs to be fun. As far as. the
Right now, we-
base pay.
Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to stick with the very similar pay scale that we have now. Given there's the opportunity for overtime and things like that, and I would have again there like to make 12, at least help 12 pay steps versus the current 6. So yeah, there will be some adjustment to that.
Is that 12 steps in 12 years, or is that
Typically in 12.
our line of business? It's max out your step and fix it. Statements they have, but they don't max out at 12, then there's nowhere to go. Different COLAs.
We currently don't have one of those steps. I'll come back to that. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to visualize things, how the system works. So we have an executive director. And then now there's 2 branches of that administrative side and the operations side. Where they both all used to report to you, now this operations side will report to this office manager. Who will report to you. Great. How many people do we employ on the administration side?
Currently 7.
So how many on the other side?
Currently,
You know, those, how many are actually people on the phone?
19. We have 19 dispatchers now.
Plus
Plus
ops manager and 2 supervisors.
the 2 supervisors are in that 19.
Are in
So,
that
yeah,
19.
so,
Okay.
And we'll
19
measure
total.
for 23.
Okay.
That's fine. Correct me if I'm wrong, the 2 current supervisors are exempt. We envision these 2 new supervisors being part of the 23. So we're actually trading 2 supervisors for 1 officer. Actually, savings.
yeah, very good point.
Because the supervisors will be a bunch of 23.
That- yeah,
Is that 2 supervisors, 2 leads, and that would be 19 dispatchers? Doesn't say who's in the position. By my
Sure,
knowledge.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. I had not forgotten about that aspect.
And maybe beneficial for board members to have like an organizational chart developed. Yeah.
That, I think that.
I think the direction of the rule is good. I like the idea. It's kind of hard to.
And even maybe a current, and then this proposal, and then what it looks like, what you envision, what your thoughts are for after. You know, how you say it should.
I'll produce those and send those out.
And I would also add, if possible, the job description, the lead and the supervisor, they're clearly defined what their roles and responsibilities are. I envision, what I'm hearing is, still there's not the oversight on the night shift team. And I don't see increasing supervision if we're not putting supervision where supervision is needed.
That's why the intent would be the supervisors would typically work the 11 to 11. Cover both days and nights.
We have 23 to 700 hours of supervision out there. And we won't put a sergeant, and I'm only coming back to, I will assign a sergeant to work part of the shift and leave the other part of the shift. There's no reason to have supervisors for not acting as supervisors.
The only way to do that is have supervisors work one shift, the lead work the other shift, or have 4 supervisors. But I think the way that we, during those hours, having a dispatcher in charge, so if there's not a lead on duty, covers that for, not necessarily, the dispatcher in charge isn't necessarily supervision, they're more of a, I'm responsible for the decisions that we are making in the team at the moment. But I think with the activity level in those hours from 23 to 07, I think that makes sense to move that to a dispatcher in charge. Or I don't know that we need a supervisor at those hours at this current size.
I think at a minimum, you need a squad leader who has the ability to be a team leader or responsible. That's why I'd be clear to define what those roles and responsibilities are. And when you're paying someone, instance, like, I know, like, Jack Rockwell, he's a corporal, and then they make 7% that the dispatcher makes or an officer makes. He also has some clearly defined roles and responsibilities for receiving that permanent 7%.
Yeah, we're absolutely rewriting the supervisor positions. Right now, we have 2 different job descriptions for supervisor. We're rewriting those, and we'll also rewrite the lead descriptions. Exactly that, because currently the job descriptions are not good. So they will be rewritten.
The lead goes in, so like the organization, called acting. Compensation. Kind of what you're trying to describe.
Not exactly. The leads are a permanent position. They're not a acting.
But when there's not a
supervisor.
supervisor, but they have to make decisions.
They're still getting the lead pay right now is 7% above dispatch. We get an additional 7% above current salary dispatch. But even if there's a supervisor there or not, they're still getting that lead pay.
But if there's not, they're not taking on that responsibility.
They are the lead. It's like having a sergeant and a corporal.
All right. You have designated the absent supervisor, absent lead. Somebody's calling ball, it calls decisions. Dispatcher in charge, are they being compensated?
They are.
Okay. Like on a daily.
On a daily, hourly basis. $1 an hour, $2 an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, that is a good point. When there's not a supervisor, not a lead, there is a dispatcher in charge who takes responsibility for the team, and they are paid in commission.
discussion I had with John, essentially you have 4 teams working and budgeting for 23 people. I thought you ended up the median number of folks to 24, so you have 6 on each team. Balance this out. And we'll turn into 2 supervisors and 1 operations manager. And I think certainly we need to have another line person. 24 budget positions. And we know that over the years we haven't even been 23 hired, so that's a goal. For me, I'd like to see that. Line folks.
We have had the reports. There was the report from 2015. There was some less, it wasn't a higher paid for report, there was a website report. And both of those had the need of 25 dispatchers. So yeah, there will come a time, perhaps in the 24, 25 budget, where we ask for that next position for budget positions, which would include.
Is there any further discussion on this? Is this something you want to come back to us with?
Yeah,
Just more short.
what's the urgency on this? Is this something that we need to do today? It seems like we've had a lot of questions, a lot of discussion, maybe. we need to come back with some of the information that's been requested. If it's not.
It's not necessarily urgent. I would like it to happen today. And my reason for that is, as we're moved into the new building, the reality is Jerry is currently tasked with a lot of many months, perhaps years before my time. And the urgency that I have is to get this position done so that Jerry and I can focus on the rest of the restructure. Make sure we get the supervisor jobs done right, the description done right, make sure we get the lead positions done right. So we have all of that in order. I would like to have the entire restructure done no later than the first of the year, but hopefully by October 1. It's part of this restructure has been put off because of the construction project. And I feel like now because I'm not spending so much time on construction, I have the time to do the things that you folks hired me for. And this is part of that. This is one of the things that I was tasked with in the very beginning when I was hired, to review the organization of the structure of the organization and to see what improvements were needed. And this is a very much needed improvement so that we can hit the next steps in a fashion without delay and provide a better structure for the dispatchers. So I respect the questions and the desire to learn more, but I would ask for this position today, and I will provide before the end of the week. I'll have the organizational chart, both current and proposed by the end of the year.
At the end of the day, we have to have some budget, not fully staffed now. Not, you know. I don't follow. Need some report charts. Between current proposed, this current proposed and then the final job description. I'm with you through though. I really want to see dedicated supervisors. I'd like to see that supervisor. Oh well, or they have time off. I think that just adds continuity to expectations. And speak to field positions. Most of the time, you see first line supervisors opt out of the field because they don't feel represented at that level. So they create their own field, right? But I don't see the policy of having first line supervisor in the field.
Yeah, if it's written well, as I mentioned earlier, the position has to, the supervisors are in the field. Well, 2 things. One, the position has to be written well, the policies around it, and the collective bargaining agreement has to be written very well. But also right now, the field has to approve it. That's the position we're in right now. We've approached the guild, we've talked to the guild, we're having discussions about it. There's been no MOU drafted to this point that will come depending on where we go with the discussions. And we currently do, as to the lead part that you mentioned, Chief, we currently do have 4 lead positions, and there is nothing wrong with filling all 4 of those. I don't have any particular heartache over that.
It's only you compensated if they're in the role.
No, the leads get compensated because they're dedicated leads. They get compensated regardless. But if we're using them on, as if we have 2 teams, we have team 1 and 2 nights and days, but if we have a lead available for both, or, I mean, the other options have the supervisors, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and the 2 leads, night shift. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So with the people under this structure, we do have the potential to cover with a dedicated supervisory person, being a supervisor or a lead for all times. So there are options there that we still have the ability to work out with the current structure with 4 lead positions, or not filling the other 2 leads and supervisors. The other idea of having the supervisors 11 to 23 is their ability to, if I have to have a meeting with all the supervisors at the same time or have input, or I can bring them in at 10 o'clock in the morning. Start at 1:30. Those are the options.
Robert, please just say something.
So I'm not a voting member today, so take it with a grain of salt. I guess for me, I'm not seeing a current, and there's nothing against the personnel who might go in, nothing against Jerry, nothing against. I don't see a current job description for the operations manager for California one, besides this APCO one. And so we're approving a position that has no current job description.
My apologies, the wrong one got added to the pack. I do have in here the job description that we've drafted for our operation.
So that's what I was, if they were following this, and like I said, I'm not a voting member, I guess, but if I was, I'd be voting no against it.
Absolutely.
Just for the fact that there's not a current job description for the position we're trying to approve today.
No, I'm with you. I apologize. I did not intend to have that APCO one in there.
This is a point of discussion. I know we'll have law enforcement sergeants or officers sergeant every shift. Originally, couldn't just go to cut out the leads and just have 4 supervisors, 1 assigned each shift. That'd be cleaner and simpler. And in their absence, you have a dispatcher in charge.
We could have 4 supervisors. That increases the salary budget, not dramatically, because we're currently paying lead 7% above. We're pretty close to putting them on the supervisor pay scale. So yeah, potentially we could move to 4 supervisors and have 1.
We claim that we have a supervisor, lead, dispatcher in charge. That's a job description. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, and just with the thought, we all do it differently, but we rotate our supervisors. You know, we have a schedule that's the same, 2 on, 2 off, or 2 on, 2 days, 2 nights. It's not like they get a different schedule, but I think each team, they can bid rotating supervisors for each team, so we don't get stuck in a rut.
Right.
Had a problem for the 1 supervisor who tasked with that person for a full year to get them back on track. Had 4 supervisors. So they knew what it was.
No, that's.
Right, and again, I don't want to get in the weeds, because that's not,
Yeah,
we shouldn't be making those decisions.
the supervisor position will be bid separately than the dispatcher position, simply for that coverage, because they have to work specific days. The position we were in 4, 5, 6 months ago with the leads, we had 3 leads on the same shift. That did no good for us at all. And we had 1 on night shift because he didn't want to work day shift. So
John, is there-
now we're going forward with supervisors.
Is there a shift differential for working nights?
There's not. There was previously, and in the last bargaining agreement. we took away.
I don't see all of that. They invest in training, you have your staff meeting where everybody's on the same page.
I don't have problems with it, because I think that's a fantastic option. I just didn't want to come in here and say, hey, I need everybody and everything.
Because that gives,
Where I could cover it with 2, but yes, 4, there's a
Is that-
way for me.
because I think then it gets you, your staff, for your operations manager, or equal entities that do evaluations for their teams. It gets channeled through them.
I fully support that.
We're talking about 7% between those 2 pay scales. 2 is big for the 2 needs to be done.
It might end up being the supervisor to lead on to look, and I'll report on that this week for you. So we're clear, but I believe it, so the league's currently makes 7. Still puts them a little bit under, but I think the gap maybe what? It would be close. So budgetarily, it's not a huge impact of league versus supervisor.
I mean, everybody's
I
prepared to make a motion
can
today.
just
or-
say that I'm confused enough with all the different options going on that I would really like to see.
Perhaps develop the
That's-
job
that-
descriptions. that chance
The
to
job
review them.
description, have the real jobs, I mean, I realize it's coming around, but have the job description in front of us, have the org charts, responsibilities. Because I think there's been several options thrown around, and I'm a little confused of what one we're landing at, and I think maybe give you some time to take our input today to come up with what you think works best from your perspective.
Well, the ops manager position, I don't think that's I don't think that's a unclear or lack of need position. That position needs to be. What we do as supervisors and leads down the road, that's quite honestly why I want Jerry in this position now, so that he and I can work now to develop that and make sure that we're doing it the right way. Yes, there are 100 options of doing it, however we want to do it. And that's to be presented to the board and approved in the future as part of the restructure. But the position today, the ops manager, that position needs to be here regardless of how we handle supervisors and leads. So again, I understand the confusion. I apologize if the incorrect job description was in the packet. That's my bad. But that job description is being passed around. And I'll email that out to everyone, as well as the order charts.
Job description.
Yeah, after we get this position, that's the supervisor, the next step, we'll have a new job description, new org charts at that point. And then leads beyond that, new job description.
Is there any further questions or discussion on this?
And just to be clear, the only decision. You have to be part of it. Absolutely. It's 2 or the individual that.
If the guild says, no, we absolutely don't want them, then they will be outside of the guild and then we can move forward, the board can move forward.
They can start their own.
Or they could, yeah. With 4, yeah. there's a position. But this position today, yes, we're only after the ops manager, that's still in the board this time, and that's the position that I would ask.
Any further questions on that? I guess we'll open the floor if anybody's interested in making a motion reference to operation management position.
One question first. So could we approve the operation manager's position and then bring the job description back for approval at the next meeting? So we have a chance to really review that.
Sure.
Kind of split that into 2 pieces. I don't know if anybody's, I haven't heard any opposition to the position, but I think for me, I'd like to be able to spend a little bit of time and read through the job description. You know, if we need to massage that a little bit. Frank says he's already blessed it, but he's got a lot of experience in the room when it comes to the job description or something.
And then it has to be also a total knowledge and its focus.
I mean, I would make a motion then to approve the position. Pending then, the job is, that's, he said, we'll reword that. Approve the position and then, direct staff to develop the job description and get it out for review, approval for next week. That makes sense?
We'll email the job description out today. We already have it. It's been
Yeah.
approved by council.
I guess I'm fine with that. I don't, we can review it, give you ideas. I don't think we get these. I mean, we let you know what our intent is, but this provides you. I would like to see a job description. I would like to have some input, but at the end of the day, it's. Yeah, so I think we need to see a job description.
And to that end, it's not the job description that I just created out of my brain. It's, it was a lot of work, a lot of drafts from other job descriptions, some of the finer points from that, and then fine tune to fit with how we operate and what we do here. And like I said, I've just gone through Summit Law Group for their approval. Frank has reviewed it. Jerry's reviewed it, Bree's reviewed it, just to make sure that we have all points covered. Yeah, it's, I mean, of course, I welcome your input, but the job description is solid. But I would, we could absolutely adjust the job description at the time. The job description is there to basically define what the position is and what it does. So that's why I'm asking for approval of the position, not necessarily the job description. So, and part of that is that's what we need approval on as a position.
We have a motion from Alan Headley to approve the operations manager position. And did you want to add that
And the pay scale.
and the pay scale?
Yeah.
You second that as well?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that?
On the pay scale, I just make sure, because we run into this when you have a management position, is the pay scale enough, you think? A supervisor, because we have it all the time right now, we have sergeants that are making way more money in the next level for us, our captain, because of overtime and some of those other things. So I think that has to be factored in, or else we're gonna be coming back to the board and say, hey, we set the salary at this rate, but we don't know what the supervisors are exactly gonna be making. I think we'll be coming back to this. That's why I would like to see all the homework done ahead of time. We can have a comprehensive approach to it. We can clearly understand where all the dollars come in, or else we're right back at this table saying, we didn't set the operations manager at a high enough rate because the supervisors are making way more money. Just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, we did factor that in this scale. Again, it's not a scale that I created, just out of my own head. This is based on comps throughout the region, throughout the state, as well as comparing to the supervisors, knowing that ops managers are not hourly, they're salary, and supervisors. And quite frankly, that's the initiative that came up middle of last year with the supervisors not being paid enough because of the potential of overtime from dispatchers getting repay, getting training pay, et cetera. I believe we've accounted for that with this pay scale. This pay scale starts again at nearly $10,000. And when I say nearly 10,900 or 9,800 some change above the top step supervisor, which would account for exactly what we're talking about.
That's about where these steps too. And the supervisors can make more than that person.
Right. Yeah, and as you know, at your departments, that it does happen from time to time. You've got supervisors and line staff who sometimes make more than your department head.
job offer to operation. It's a new position.
You would. My intent is to start at step one. Which quite frankly represents that. $2,000.
Any further discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So how about the show of hands? What is it? 6, 7, all right. 7? Mr. Ruffalo, no. We talked before the horse, but we'll go ahead and catch up. So, that motion does carry. Move ahead. With that, what's your intention to post this in some form?
I would, it won't be posted, it's not gonna be offered outside.
Alrighty. Along, memory with board comments, board committee reports, law tac, and Dr. Fred Reynolds, really, you have anything to report from law tac? Bill, if it's on fire.
We met last week and talked about Pulse Point, being rolled out. Stillman issues. Talking about changing. Nothing groundbreaking. Remember anything else? But
The fire tech did agree to a major change. Taking care of that. We did talk about, I'll talk about it in my director's report, some new reporting for providing for fire districts as well as, again, provide for the law side.
The nature change, the nature of the call.
They wanted a painting of some sort.
Anything else? Matt? How about Pulse Point? Where do we have on that?
Pulse Point is, we had the beta up and running. We did have an issue this week where we had to shut it down. It's been turned back on today, Don. That has to be done down in the city, that's firewall. There was a data breach. Well, it wasn't a data breach. There was a Priority Dispatch, it's our EMD dispatch software. They also own Pulse Point. They got hacked this last week, and it was a ransomware attack. So we turned off all those connections temporarily, as advised by the students that are in Florida, nationwide agencies are doing that. We've since gotten more detail and clarified that, and we're good with it now, so turn back on. Pulse Point is in a beta test, if you will. I currently have it on my phone for Dallas County. Some of the fire guys do. They're wrapping up the final stages, ensuring that the data is accurate and going properly. I think they're planning to go live. You know when they're going? I think they turn it from beta to live. I'm not sure. Eric Reese would have that information. But I believe it's probably another 30 days or so. Yeah, turned out to be a fantastic product. I think
Anything else from fire? Next up is the user fee, maintenance bill / budget update.
Sure, Rachel, you're up.
Okay, so we had a couple meetings and everyone has agreed that something very similar to the old user formula is going to be used. And so how we're going to break it down for the law side, it will be based on population, valuation, and calls for service. There will be a 50-50 weighted average for population and valuation. And then we'll do a 50-50 weighted average for population valuation and calls for service. And then it will be weighted 75-25 law to fire. For fire, it will be based on valuation and calls for service. And there will be weighted 50-50 for valuation and calls for service since they don't have a set population. And then, of course, it'll be the 2575 for fire law. And the way that looks is we will take into consideration all of our revenues for the year. There will be no AMR credits. They're just going to be built into our revenues. We'll take into account all of our expenditures for the year, including money that needs to go into each of our replacement funds. And then whatever's remaining to cover those expenses will be the user fee portion. And then it will be broken down into those, what I told you guys about the population valuation calls for service at a 75-25% ratio.
This will be subject to approval of the board as part of the overall budget. Any questions on that?
I've got one. This is Troy.
Troy is on there. Okay.
Yeah, I've been here. It's just hard to hear you guys. The audio is really bad for the conference room. One question that comes up for us, is there any consideration given to how many on the law side, how many agencies, how many total officers are on each channel? Because ours is clogged. And we pay quite a bit more for our channel than the others. So I don't know, have you guys considered that in the structure?
We have not factored number of users on a frequency as part of the. That wasn't one of the, that was part of the conversation as far as just general conversation about the 75-25 weighted, et cetera, but we did not use that factor as part of the formula. But I understand your question, sir. Currently on the sheriff's frequency, we have the smaller law agencies as well. Castle Rock. So there's a lot of traffic on that one frequency. Even though it's a dedicated frequency, there's considerably more traffic there than there is on.
Is there any intent of updating, recovering any costs for non-user agencies?
We currently do bill the coroner and AMR. We do not bill.
So with our new network setup, we have corrections and records and equipment that will have to be replaced, and are they part of this formula at all?
They are not. Number of users per agency is not part of the formula item. It's simply, it's actually quite a formula. It is, as Rachel stated, population valuation and not taking that into account how many users per agency. Yes, it's currently not a separate. This part is less about radio use and more about general system use for the Spillman system. And we are having meetings, the M17 together, that we're developing, hopefully developing, hopefully will come to the board at some point. For example, Department of Corrections is not, they're not on the radio a lot, but they're heavy users of the Spillman system. And those users have to be managed, password permissions, etc. Likewise, some of your agencies, some agencies have someone internal that can do that, some don't. But then those things are not factored into the user fee formula based on the evaluation population.
During our meetings, we did look at multiple different user fees and what other agencies use. And some of them did use, like, you know, how many cops do you have? How many are on duty? How many full-time? And we ended up settling on this one because it seemed like it captured, at least for our agency, the best equitable numbers equal for everybody. But we did have a lot of heavy discussion around who are other users in the system that are not just you guys, and how we're going to either charge them or get something in return for them also using the system. And so that's not necessarily part of this formula that we've created around you guys, but we are looking at how is that money going to be maybe recouped from them. And then if we do recoup it, will be revenue, then of course your user fees are going to go down because of that revenue.
I have a quick question on assessed value. This is Sammy Brown with District 5. Are they the same assessed values that the county uses to calculate the levy rates?
They are. I went off of their website to get the assessed valuation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on that? This will be brought forward as part of the budget for 2023. And then further discussions on that. Questions on that. I got to apologize. I guess on our screen, I was not. Their names weren't showing up. I didn't see those. Troy, did you have anything on LTAC? I already said you didn't.
No, I think we're good. We just had some minor stuff we covered in the May meeting.
Okay, I got to apologize. I see Ann Rivers is on it. Ann, are you filling in for Chris Swanson today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm sorry. Our screen was not showing attendees. Didn't think anybody was there. I'm sorry. So.
No worries. Thank you.
All righty. Well, yeah, feel free to pipe up. Yeah, Ann's the new assistant city manager for Longview. So going in for Swanson. Sorry, I did not see you. All righty. Any further discussion on user fee budget? And we anticipate having a budget in the next few months, I suspect. So first review. So, all righty. Up to director's report, staffing update, on down the list, go.
First of all, back up a little bit. Thank you very much for the office manager position. That is good for our organization, for the upper management leadership. So thank you. As to staffing, currently we have 19 dispatchers scheduled to the floor. The last time I reported, we saw one in training. She's currently out of training, signed off, working the schedule. So now we do have both of the 11 to 11 positions. So, we have that coverage within beneficial. We do have a conditional offer out right now to a new hire or potential new hire, pending the background. And that background, we are now changed our background process. We're now using public safety testing for our backgrounds for dispatchers. And as mentioned earlier, we have 7 non-represented staff. Climate and culture. Of course, the big boost right now is this beautiful building. Our dispatchers are excited about it. It's coming together very nicely. We're in my office. One of my screens is dedicated to a countdown. And as of right now, depending on the time, it's about hours. We go live in production here in this building. 32 calendar with our work days. So we are excited about that. There's a lot of excitement building in the organization here, and our administrative staff is working hard to make it ready and make it everything that they need to be the dispatchers that you guys need to be. We are working at pushing Portico out to all staff in July. We've been testing it, using it, updating it a little bit, and that'll be available for all of our staff. I'm just like pushing out what? Portico. Portico is it's a wellness app that the WASPIC has provided statewide and includes 911 dispatch centers. So we are taking advantage of that. It has a lot of great mental health, wellness resources, as well as finance and other things like that. So it's kind of like a local or a insurance EAP, but beefed up and more accessible. We're excited to get that out.
We have the sheriff's office, the police department, so we have our person, all the captains. position was.
I just haven't heard the word.
It's funded through the legislature. Dispatch, correction, I'm not sure. Fire guys take care of themselves.
We're in the process of getting on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's coming out to all of our staff. Also, as climate culture, I think it's been important that we have been meeting with the guild leadership every month, at least once a month. And we'll be on contract maintenance, or just a keeping on top of things, knowing what the issues are and aren't, as well as being able to communicate regularly about the issues they have, such as supervisor belonging to the guild or not, or will they allow it, I should say, as well as other topics that have come up. So it's been very useful. I think the staff see that as a good move that we have that regular communication that wasn't there historically. So we're enjoying that. It's working well for us. As to the facility, just briefly, the construction project is done. We have substantial completion. We have the final completion date has passed. There's some paperwork to do to actually sign off on the final completion. And Patriot Construction will submit one more pay app. Lots of legal requirements for the state to be able to actually pay that final pay app, aside from the retainage. All of their subcontractors have to file their affidavit with the state in order for us to pay the final pay app. So we've been working closely with council. And we're in good shape there. We've met and gone through final credits. There was talk about Patriot wanted to take away some of the liquidated damages pays. We've reached that agreement. They're taking away none. We have that date. That's a pretty specific number, and we weren't willing to give up any of that, and that's been successful. So we are in the final stages of wrapping up the paperwork on the building. And now Brandon's not here, but you probably saw Brandon walking around, or not walking around. Brandon knows how to walk. He's around the building, running around, doing all of the things. So the building has been turned over to Brandon, the contractor. It's been great. He's wrapping up final touches. He's making sure that the spaces are ready. They've done a really good job of keeping the city going and on task. We will be having a staff and family open house on July 18th, just for our 911 employees. See the building. We have some events for them, not necessarily events. The whole thing is an event, but we've got some plans on the food truck and that. The very next day, on Wednesday, July 19th, will be the board meeting. And after the board meeting, we will have the open house for user agents. So any and all of your staff are welcome to come in. We won't have a food truck for you, but we will have an open house. We'll welcome you in. We'll show you around. For the board that's here today, when we're done, if you would like to tour the building, we're happy to do that. On the staff one, it'll be from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the after the board meeting, we plan on going from noon until I believe 5 on the 19th. Thank you. With dispatchers showing up here to work on Monday, July 24th, 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll have that regular Monday day shift here at this building functioning. And then we'll have 3 dispatchers at the Hall of Justice until we flip the switch. The state's actually going to flip the switch on our phone, our 911 phone system at about 9 o'clock. But we'll have radios and everything, still and everything else working well ahead of that. But we have to rely on the state for that one flip. And once they flip that switch, there's no going back to the second.
Well, I mean, there is, if there's problems.
Yeah, but
We don't anticipate.
there's there's been a lot of work and a lot of testing in the environment. For example, we have the microwave up on this tower here at this facility now, and they've got connectivity to Rainier. So this facility is now in the loop of our radio network. Some fine tuning to do. Argus has been fantastic. Miscellaneous things, again, next month our meeting is at the open house for staff or for either agencies right after that. We talked a little bit about the grant dollars already, the federal grant dollars for the radio infrastructure. We're not impacted by that issue over debt ceiling, things like that. We've got confirmation of that now. And we anticipate seeing those dollars before the I want to talk quickly about Crystal Reports. Crystal Reports is a way of pulling data out of the Spillman system and reporting on it. I've developed some already for the fire districts, and I have some samples if you want to see them that show, for example, medical calls, what the nature of work, things like that. We're working on like the sheriff's office regarding response times. We've done created a handful of reports of useful data. What I need to know from the agencies, and I'll take this to the law tech and fire tech as well. Who within your departments needs what data? And we'll produce the reports to give you the data on a regular basis. So we've done, for example, for the fire departments, we've done response plan reports that it's just easier to read and know what your response plans are, who your cover units are, things like that, instead of having to keep it on an Excel spreadsheet like some are doing, and some are just relying on taking and still and looking at all the different tables to make sure it's just an easier read, easier format to follow along to make sure they're accurate. So you'll be seeing a lot more Crystal reports and data coming out of the system. Got the time to build those and create that information. And we already talked about the pulse point issue. I had that on my list to talk about. Deanna, do you have anything else on the radio?
Y'all heard about Johnston Ridge and the bridge that went there, so we don't have access up to that site, which kind of a three-tier goes from Signal to Coldwater to Johnston Ridge to Coldwater. So that pretty much is down because it doesn't have anything to communicate with. We don't have a timeline on kind of numbers that were thrown around a little bit with the more service for like 6 months a year. I think they're still assessing whether they're even gonna staff rooms there, so we're not really happy with that. It becomes an issue for us if they start doing construction up there, either to the north of our Coldwater site, they really wouldn't be any coverage other than the PHF needed to be part of CART, but it wouldn't be on the Simplex system. John, you stole all my thunder. Batteries, we have a replacement project that we've started, just waiting on the delivery of some equipment. And we're going to replace all the battery packs at all the sites. And as far as the grants, we'll be replacing all the microwaves throughout the system. We did replace the Abernathy microwave. There's still some alignment between Castle Rock and Abernathy that need to be done. But that site is up and running. I have getting him up to speed on all the sites, and the good thing for y'all is they'll actually be visiting those sites on a regular basis every time we have any kind of maintenance up there, so that we have a better, eyes on the site to see what the conditions are, other than relying on just a wireless to bring that information. And we put together a spreadsheet of kind of future things that we need to do at the different sites. And Deer Island is contract in place. We went to the site, visited it. There were a couple things that still need to be taken care of by the landlord there. We do have some emails that Frank forwarded to me. They want us to move ahead right now, and there were some questions that they was going to answer for the landlord there. We're still waiting on. It's existing. Yeah, so you have a general contract with them. Anything else?
That, I mean, that was just the invitation of their attorney saying, hey, we think we complied with what we agreed with and restarted July 1st. And I know that you were in a dialogue with them.
Woodland, Chris and I have dedicated our souls after this project here is done to focus on trying to figure out what we're gonna do. As far as trying to do location.
Any further questions for Deanna? Two things for John. One, is there gonna be an open house for the public to be able to come in?
There will, that'll be a couple of weeks after opening, will be early to mid-August. We'll have a public.
Walk through it, so we're not going dispatch for.
Correct.
or-
Yeah, we'll bring them,
Walk outside.
we'll probably bring them in the front door and this door over here through this room where we're those and things, and then we'll take them out this door, down the corridor, out the employee entrance, and back to the public.
Some of your social media to get that out. And as far as vacating the Hall of Justice, we had a discussion of shooting for maybe October 1. Is that kind of idea?
On the 34th. Yeah, it was no later than October 1. That'll be, I mean, there are parts, we'll have the backup center upstairs behind records. There will still be some radio equipment in what's currently Don's office and server room. That radio equipment's going to have to remain there, so I'm reaching the agreement with him as to how we access it.
Actually, the only thing we're gonna have down there is the alarm system that monitors the hall.
Did they move all the radio?
Yeah, all the radio equipment.
Oh, okay.
We'll have some up in the
Upstairs.
upstairs on this. Everything else will be gone except that alarm system to monitor the cords and records. And it will just be like an Ethernet connection over here.
After we go live on the 24th here with the 5 consoles that are here, early August, we'll be bringing the 6 remaining consoles that are at the hall now over here and setting them up, installing them, and having them function. And so shouldn't be too long after that. It may be earlier than October 1. I'll turn the lights on.
All right.
You really want that space.
You know who's occupying it and you may want some desks.
Oh, yes, we do have some desks available. They're great desks. They just don't match our theme over here. Yeah, we do have some desks and furniture available if any agencies would like it. We are happy to surplus it to another agency.
We took very good care of it.
So the future is this works. I think that's the sheriff's office can take the DM from down there. Yes, I don't think we want this. Okay. Couple things. First, I want to apologize to Sammy and Ann for not recognizing that you were there. I don't know if you guys had any comments or wanted to vote on anything. Too late to open up. And we do have a few comments in the chat, John. One, the new one just popped up. So I think we have any interest there that we need to address.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I guess not. No comments from them. All right. Is there any questions for staff?
I just have a comment on the building. I walked over here today. And I will also bring this to Ocean Public Works Extension, but there's absolutely no sidewalk between Ocean Beach.
Yes.
And there's no lane, there's nothing, no crosswalks, anyway,
I would agree. In the original plan that was there, and you'll notice if you go out this front door and there's a sidewalk on the edge of the parking lot.
to
and
the
it
end of
gets
the
out
parking
there,
lot,
then
but then
dies.
it stopped between
Yeah.
there and Ocean Beach, nothing.
Initially, that was in the plan, and somewhere along the line before my time, recall why that got taken out? I know it.
I feel like it had something to do with maybe the future plans of that being the fire station. And
We're gonna play that.
I have to look for stakes at Home Depot. Haley left her for me to use.
No, put that back and I'll give you mine.
You need a mute and. There you go.
There we go.
So yeah, that was intentionally taken out of the plan, and I honestly don't know the entire reason why that was, but I'm happy to blame it on.
Jim, do you remember? I just,
Yeah, I think it's because although we have an easement, you don't necessarily have building rights. So it's almost like one of those.
okay, well,
Outside of
I'm
the
happy to bring it up
outside of
along
the
in
scope
public
of
works as
this
well, but
property.
I think we need something.
Does none of one have a prescribed footprint here on this parcel?
We do, we have a defined property line in our lease agreement with the city, and you're correct, that is not, we do have an easement there. I believe it's.
It's a utility.
Yeah, utility is 20 feet wide all the way out to Ocean Beach. But yeah, you're right, keep co-building rights on that for us. The city owns that.
Is there any further questions for staff, executive director's report, anything? Alrighty, we're down to old business. Is there any old business? Hearing none, we're not gonna have executive session, so I think we're ready to adjourn. So if there's no objections, we'll stand adjourned till July 19th. Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you all. Would anyone like to tour, and would like to change of how we set this up for the board meetings? Good with this? Thank you. Eventually. We'll have, for the future meeting, for the July meeting, we'll have the phone system set up so that hearing them, or them hearing us and us hearing them won't be an issue.
And we can order a beautiful sunshine coming in the windows. That would be great.
Yeah, Brandon ordered that for you.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
How long does the tour take?
However long